Joe Biden is wrapping up his first year and has greatly exceeded expectations as he has failed so much more quickly and dramatically than anyone could have imagined. While there is a long list of his screw-ups and nearly every day has a new failure in the news, I will be covering only 5 of his worst screw-ups so far, in no particular order.
Deadocracy.
Welcome to Deadocracy. Let's push through this like we all had to push through this past year. Let us begin with the most obvious failure, one that the administration has tried hard to forget. Number 1, Afghanistan. By pulling out of the country and removing all support from the Afghanistan government, Biden took a stable situation and got 13 American soldiers killed. Recklessly pulling out caused more soldier deaths than in the previous year. Joe Biden directly caused these American deaths and thousands of unnecessary civilian deaths, looking for a political win, all while ignoring the advice of generals. This was such a monumental failure that even the media machine that carried water for a senile hermit eventually had to retract their lies and admit that Joe Biden had looked at his watch during the farewell ceremony to the soldiers. Well, I say they admitted it. They admitted it eventually after they were continuously exposed for lying. Then, what is worse, to try and change the news coverage, Joe Biden committed a war crime. A literal war crime. Biden droned an aid worker and his family, claiming the drone had hit terrorists. They continued this cover-up of monumental failure for as long as they could. They wanted to look firm while cowering in fear from both the Taliban and the political fallout from the most embarrassing retreat since Vietnam. All of this, and we didn't even take our equipment with us as we fled, with our tails between our legs. We ran away and the Taliban captured our equipment. They used my tax money to murder and oppress women and minorities, mostly Christians. I guess it should be no surprise that we left so much equipment behind because of the next reason Biden has failed this year. Biden can't even competently transport consumer goods, which don't even have people firing bullets at the transportation vehicles. So how could he be expected to transport military supplies in a war zone? The second failure of Biden's administration is the supply chain. It has almost collapsed under this administration's so-called leadership. The parallels between this semiconductor supply chain collapse and the one that caused the Bronze Age collapse deserve a video in its own right. Let me know down in the comments section if you would be interested in a full video on these and other parallels that point towards civilization-wide collapse. But for now, let us focus on the devastation that Biden has caused through his policies. #BareShelvesBiden was a trending hashtag because so many stores couldn't replenish their goods that it became a meme. This is a giant joke, just like this administration. These pictures of empty store shelf after empty store shelf do this catastrophe more justice than I could with words alone. There really is something almost haunting about these bare shelves. It looks like some post-apocalyptic movie where the stores have already mostly been picked clean. Also, they look exactly like stores after a new socialist dictator takes over and causes the economy to collapse. The sad truth is that even if Biden or the Transportation Secretary Buttigieg managed to become competent and fix the crisis they created, the fact is, people still can't afford to buy anything because of another of Joe Biden's failures. Which brings us to number 3, inflation. Inflation is at a 40-year high. Not in my entire lifetime have we seen such insane inflation. No one should be surprised by this after all. In 2021, 40% of all dollars had been made within the last year. The virtual printer is going non-stop. It is just adding zeros on balance sheets to make it look like our economy isn't in a slow-motion crash. We took this money and threw it at everything and everyone. Despite the continuous lies from Biden about inflation being transitory, it is here to stay and likely get even worse than the 7% we currently see. And this is to say nothing of the games played with how that number is calculated compared to the impact in reality, because that number doesn't count for food or energy. The inflation being over 7% means you are probably making less money this year than last year, even if you got a raise. That is, of course, if you still even have a job. Number 4, the job market. Why would someone keep a job when the government is throwing money at them? The massive stimulus created no jobs and actually cost jobs by paying people to stay home. This created the Great Resignation, where the labor workforce participation rate is still down by 1.2% compared to what it was pre-pandemic. Many people have just given up looking for jobs because they were close to retirement or just prefer living off the government money. The only reason unemployment is not through the roof is because the labor market itself has shrunken over the first year of Biden's tyranny. Most importantly, these jobs that he actually has aren't being created, they are being restored. The authoritarian boot is being partially lifted from people's throats, and some of those who were forced out of putting food on their table are finally being given their livelihoods back. Of course the elites never felt these pressures. Elites like Nancy Pelosi, or as I like to call her, Nancy Antoinette. Nancy made loads of money off of insider trading while telling the plebeians to just eat ice cream like she does out of her huge freezer. This isn't the only failure of this administration when it comes to jobs, as Biden's first day saw the direct destruction of construction jobs for a pipeline that would have benefited Americans. This pipeline would have provided jobs and cheap energy, helping reduce inflation, instead of what Biden's done. Why doesn't everyone leave the labor market, since the administration is offering free money not to go to work, while the administration also points a gun at the workers' heads, demanding they get vaxxed? This brings us to Biden's fifth failure, COVID, where he has overseen daily case numbers exceeding 1 million. He had a vaccine and over 400 million doses ordered, despite his constant lying about this. He promised testing while having no plan for testing. As previously mentioned, he is destroying the job market by forcing vaccine down people's throats. He continued lockdowns despite evidence that the policies aren't helping people and are actually hurting everyone. He masked and vaccinated children as a sacrifice to his COVID god of science, Anthony Fauci, aka the man cutting throats out of puppies so the scientists don't have to hear them cry as they are eaten alive by bugs. The failure here is one of his own making, because he campaigned as though he could shut the virus down, and Trump was the incompetent one, despite more deaths under Biden. Biden lied and failed to deliver on the lies that put him in office. Biden thinks that no president that is responsible for over 220,000 deaths should remain president, and luckily, the people are beginning to agree with him. Biden's approval rating is falling, as he is, by his own words, responsible for massive number of deaths. This is the only good news. These failures are causing people to wake up. Voters are luckily turning away from the party and president causing so much harm. I unfortunately don't have time to cover his general authoritarian tendencies and other broken promises, because I still have a full-time job and no one wants to watch a multi-day-long video. With only the major failures of Afghanistan withdrawal, supply chain crisis, inflation, job market collapse, and COVID, this administration has proven itself the worst of my lifetime, by far. 54% of people surveyed agree with me that Biden is one of the worst presidents in American history. So I can say nothing more other than I must agree with Joe Biden himself.
Yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas as well. Merry
Thank
Christmas, and let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. I agree.
Let's go, Brandon, indeed. This has been Deadocracy. Please like, share, and comment down below with any failures that I missed, other than immigration, because massive numbers of illegal immigrants is what they want, making this a success from their evil point of view.
Deadocracy.